Hello, everyone. This is Stacy. Welcome to The Landing. Hi, everyone. I am excited about today's conversation. We have a guest that you know and I love very much. It is my dad, Wayne Davis. And he has agreed to come back on this special episode to close out the month of October. The month of October blessed us with an extra Thursday. So we are doing something that a few people have requested, and that is to have Dad on and to share some of his stories, because he has a life filled with experiences on the water. And so this was a perfect way to end this wonderful month that we have discussed fishing and livelihoods on the water. So without further ado, welcome, Dad. Welcome.
Well, thank you for having me. Yeah, I'm going to start out with the first money I ever made in the water.
Okay.
When I was young with my father, we have a camp. So we didn't have a camp, but Hugh Salter had a camp that we rented out where my father get it every year for a week. And what time was there one night? It was a gentleman called Bonner Willis was down setting shrimp in net, what they call the shore net. And I went down there. I was only 12 years old, and I went down to him, and I helped him a little bit. I reckon I did. I thought I was helping him. And when I got ready to leave, he gave me $5. So it's the first money I ever made in the water. And I never made much more than that, no way. But I did. That wasn't the first money I ever made.
$5, pretty good.
$5 was pretty good. Yeah. Then they especially from Bonner, if you knew Bonner. Yeah. And when we was going to school, there was a fellow from Eastern Shores would come, and he would set. He would buy peeler crabs and shed them out, soft crabs. And some of the young boys and stuff, they had a little piano net. It's a little net you pull behind you, put the rope on your shoulder, and you pull it behind you. Mm-hmm. And he would give you a nickel piece for every peeler crab you would catch. And I don't think I ever caught more than 5. I think 4 or 5 was the most I ever caught. But anyway, I remember doing that in the water and stuff too. Now, clamming, we did some clamming when I was younger, but I did clamming in different ways. My favorite way of clamming was with my hands. Mm-hmm. A lot of people used a rake. Some people used their feet. And in different ways they do it. And another way I did do a little bit of it, I kick clams. And you say when you kick a clam, you don't think about it. You think about your foot. But really, it's what you were doing. You would put your anchor out close to a rock. And you run a line, and your boat would just swing over real slow and blow the sand off of the clams.
So your boat's on.
And your boat's on, and you would go over, and then you would stop the boat, and the tide would clear up the dam, and you could go and just pick them up. And then you would shorten her up a little bit and move out or a little bit further, maybe 3 feet, and you go back the other way and do the same thing. And you go back and just pick them up, and they call it kicking clams.
No way.
I think it was illegal, but...
I said, wow.
But anyway,
how deep a water was that?
It was not very deep. It was just deep enough the boat could float. You wanted her where you wouldn't get aground, just go move maybe a 1.5 feet.
Wow, never heard of that. You didn't share that little secret with me.
I enjoyed doing that too. And I used to set nets, and some of the people did spots in the fall of the year. You would set a net off them and catch the spots, go out the next morning and fish and get the spots out. And the fishermen would, the spots was more of the fall of the year type thing. And they would always listen for the people catching spots in Chesapeake Bay because they know they was getting closer here. They'd never be ready when they got here.
They were migrating to us.
Yeah. So that was one of the big things. I did a little bit of that, setting spot nets. And I can remember, I don't remember this, but I was told by my cousin, Buck Lewis, when we lived up on Red Hill, he told me a couple of times about the different things he would get me when I was little. I wasn't probably about 3 years old, or so I don't remember, because I don't remember anything about it. And he set a net off for spots like that where we lived at.
Which was on the
Red Hill,
Red Hill. So that was on the
west end of the island.
Okay.
And he said he would take me out there with me, and he would tie me on the thought. And
He would tie you
he
on
would
the
tie me
thought?
on the thought, so I wouldn't fall overboard what time he was fishing the net.
Now tell everybody what a thought is.
Okay, a thought is something that you think about, except on a boat.
No.
On a boat, it's a seat, but it's really not a seat or a thought. It's a thort. The real name is a thort. And believe it or not, that's what it is.
So it's a seat on the boat that's really called a thort, but we call it a thought.
Right.
Okay.
That's what.
And your cousin would tie you to that so you wouldn't fall overboard.
He would tie me on. He said he would tie me and take me out there with him and tie me on the thort, so I wouldn't fall overboard. But I don't
man.
remember that. But he told me he'd done that a bunch of times.
I believe it.
Yeah.
That's
And
funny.
another thing that I would do, I scalloped a lot until I learned better. But anyway, we would go where we scallop. You could do it a couple different ways. Some people do it with a scoop and just get out and wade and pick them up. Then another way was scallop drags they had. And that's the way I did most of it, was scallop drags.
What's that?
And you would drag, it was a rig, it was made that you tow behind the boat, and it would go on the bottom, and you just go slow and pull it. And it would knock the scallops up and go in the net on the bunt of the scallops. And you could use one, you could use two, and some people use as many as 5 or 6.
At one time?
At one time, because they could put 2 behind the boat, and they would put an extension across the boat like a pole, and they could tie 1 or 2 out on the edge of it too, so they could catch more like that.
Oh, wow.
And scalloping was a big thing. Scalloping has not been much scallops in years come, but one of the bad things that ruined scalloping was we would have, like when the season come along, it was the same time that the whippoorwies, stingrays, they would get in schools like a square acre.
Oh, wow.
And they would be right close together. I mean, it would almost be like solid. And they would go in this over the scallop beds, and it was just like vacuum cleaners. They cleaned the whole thing out. So they try to have the season before they would get here, because that was one of the things that. And another thing is they always blamed it on the grass. There's not as much grass, because scallops going to have a grass to live in.
Right.
And I remember the last time I went scalloping, it caused me to go in the Coast Guard.
Why? Okay, here's a story, y'all.
Because I went
Why?
I went scalloping. I went all the way down to the hammock that's off of Marshallburg, and went down there scalloping. And I caught enough scallops. I got a lady behind me, an elderly lady, Miss Sarah Thomas, and I give her $1 a gallon for opening them for me. And when I sold them, I got $2.50 a gallon. So she got $1 of that. So I paid for my gas. I think I made about that day. I think I made about $4. Yeah. So I said I got to do something different than this, because there wasn't much future in it.
Oh, my word. No, you made as much doing when you were, 12? Make $5?
Oh yeah, I made $5. But anyway, I enjoyed scalloping, and there was times you make some money out of it, but it was never a high price like nowadays. I mean, I bought a gallon of scallops here before last, paid $100 for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I got $1 a gallon and didn't even clear all that. But
Oh, my
anyway,
gosh. But I tell you, scallops are good eating.
yeah. But that was when gasoline, it was like $1 for 5 gallons. So
Right.
so it wasn't a lot of expense.
Right.
And one other thing about the scallop thing, I remember one morning I was going, and there was another boat inshore of me. It was Calvin and I can't think of his name. Anyway, they were inshore of me, right, and they're brothers. And they had a dog in the boat with them. And we were just going along to the scallop grind, and all of a sudden I heard all the cussing they were in the world you could hear. And I looked, and they had run the grind. And both of them had gone under the head of that boat with that dog, and they were trying to crawl out. And they'd never been no more cussing than they were that morning.
No.
I got in there to them, got
They
them
were
up, got
killed?
them straight. But anyway, that was one of the things, the excitements that morning when they went up under the head of that
That
boat.
didn't feel good.
No, it did not. No,
Oh, my
Roscoe,
goodness.
that's what it was.
Roscoe. Yeah, I remember Mr.
yeah.
Roscoe.
That was him.
So you said that you were heading to the scallop grounds. Where did you go to catch scallops?
We would go over to Whiter's Island and over on Core Banks mostly. And they catch them right on up across from Atlantic. Scallops been all over on the Core Banks. It was more quarterback. And they caught a lot of scallops down Salter Path up that way, too. There's a lot of good scallop in the area. Some of the boys here would go there when they got low here.
Yeah. What was it that Kenny used to call a scallop? He would go to the shore.
Oh, he would call it a candy.
Sea candy.
Yeah.
When it's sea candy. That's what our nephew, my nephew, your
Yeah,
grandson.
want me to tell you that story?
You go ahead, tell us that story.
Okay.
'Cause it's
Kenny was my grandson. He still is.
Still,
But,
he was your first
but he was
grandson.
my first one. And one day we was down to the shore at the landing, and he was swimming, and I was just walking along the edge of the shore, but I could reach the water. And I reached down and I caught a clam. And I called him up there to show him what I'd done, and he was looking at me, and I showed him that's where they lived. And he was looking over my shoulder, and I kept clamming a little while. Directly, he tapped me on the shoulder. I said, "What is it?" He said, "They must not be home."
Because you didn't find any?
No, I didn't find no more. He said, "They must not be home." So he was right, but I was wrong on that one.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
All right. I'm sorry. Yes. What else do you have? What else?
Well, another thing we did, I did some mulleting.
I love a mullet.
We've got to go mulleting. And me and the boy that worked with me, Reese, everybody knew Reese.
I love Reese.
Afternoons when we got off work, we would go over to the Easter Banks. And each one of us had a boat, and we had nets on the boat, and we would tie them together, and we would go over there. Sometimes we catch 1,000, 2,000 pounds just before dark.
Ooh.
When everybody else was coming home, we would go over and catch the fish. But I think they were mad with us. But
I'm sure
I
they
didn't
were.
I didn't mean it though. But
I'm sure they weren't mad.
no.
Well, I'm going to interject. Don't lose your train of thought. You would come home like 4:30. You worked at the electric company here on the island. And you'd come home at 4:30. We'd get home from school about 3. Mama worked at the school. Mama would cook supper. She'd have supper about 4:30. You'd get home, eat. Then you'd leave, go out in the boat. And I always thought that you had it made because you were coming home from work, going out in the boat. But I had no idea that you were really going to work because you were working your second job. And so I apologize, Daddy, for being mad that you never took me out of the boat.
Well, Atlanta did usually have something to eat, but I remember, I got to tell you
Oh,
this.
please tell this
I
story.
remember one time
This is funny.
the women at the time was making real pretty light bread biscuits, and they were spraying them with something. I don't know if they
Shellac.
would just shine like they had
You
butter
put
on them.
shellac on them so that
Yeah,
they
shellac.
wouldn't stay. Yep.
And I was getting ready to go. I just got home, and on the way I sold them up on the counter, and I grabbed one of them and headed out the house, and I took a bite of it. I said, Lana didn't put something in them or put too much of something, because that wasn't right. But I kept right on going, and I tried one more bite in it the same way, so I threw it away. And I found out later it was poison. But it was a prettier biscuit than it was that it tasted. It
Yeah,
did not
because it was
taste-
decoration.
It did not taste
The
good.
funniest thing about that story to me is that you took 2 bites.
Yeah, because I was in a hurry and I was hungry. Yeah.
Oh my! That was the one time she didn't have supper, so that was her fault.
Well, I'll tell you another time. I got hurt a lot when I went fishing.
Oh, we've got to do an episode
and
sometime about
I went.
that.
We mullet. Me and Bill Guthrie. He was my neighbor.
I love Mr.
We took
Bill.
his daddy's boat and we went mulleting one day, and we left the house and went on down toward Whitersea Island. Didn't see anything and went on down towards the Cape. And we got part of the way down there, and I happened to look back, and I saw the water splash back by Whitersea Island where we just come by. So then we turned around, went back, said it had to be a mullet, and we did. The shoal had turned to mullets, jumping everywhere.
Oh wow!
We sat around on when it was kind of low tide on that show. We get a grind, we bump around, finally got around, and the net overlaid 2 or 3 times. That means that the ley line went over the cork line.
Oh,
So I got out, run around her, got her down. And when I went back to the boat, I was wet and everything got in. When I got in the boat, I grabbed the whole exhaust pipe,
oh no!
and I heard it seize when
On your
when I
hand.
turned it loose, the exhaust pipe. So then we had to go in, get them pipe. We had 2,000 pound of mullets.
So you couldn't leave them.
Couldn't leave them. We got the mullets and put them in the boat and went home. And it was real mullets. And we stopped to the mouth of the harbor. You know where that was. I made you go in it one day.
Yeah, that's another story,
Yeah.
another time.
But we stopped there and we split every one of them mullets.
You killed.
That
Your
we
hand
we
burnt
cut
up.
them and we we cleaned every one of them mullets, got the roe out of them. We had 2 washing tubs full of the roe. We threw the mullets right away because nobody didn't want them.
Oh man!
And I remember how bad that kind of hurt, kind of bad that day. But anyway, I still like scallops though, but I wouldn't be mad with them.
On mullets.
Or I meant mullets.
Yeah. You grabbed a hold of the hot exhaust pipe.
Exhaust pipe coming out. I just reached a hold of it
To get up.
get me on the boat. Yeah, and and my hand wet on that exhaust pipe.
Yeah, that felt really
That was not very smart.
That was not very smart, Daddy.
No, I know it.
Oh, me.
Okay, you want something else? Or
Yes, no.
Okay, this is a
keep
good
it
one right
coming.
here. This here one here is me and Billy Paler.
Uncle Billy.
Yeah, Billy. We was out in the ocean. We was on the ocean side across from the western end of the island, the Shackelford, way shore. It was on the ocean side. And what time we set a net for mackerel. And this other people had been setting. There was another crew down to the east of us. And we set that net for mackerel. And the wind shifted and the weather come up and it was never blowed no harder. It was blowing 35 or 40 mile an hour.
I mean,
But it wasn't hard, wasn't to the shore because it was blowing towards it was coming from the north. And it was so bad that one of them offshore tugs come in there and anchored. Anyway, we went down to where the other people had their nets set, and we were just talking, waiting to get ready to take the nets up. And it was getting late in the afternoon, too. And all of a sudden, we saw this little blue boat going by. It was about a 16-foot little fiberglass boat. And it was a man and a woman in her. And she went by and trying to get home.
You didn't know who they were, right?
No, we didn't know them anything. We just went offshore of them, went on by us, and went out of sight. And they hadn't been going over 3 or 4 minutes when I heard the coast talking to the Coast Guard. Said that they had broke down and the wind was taking them offshore, and they didn't have no anchor that would reach bottom.
Because you had a radio on your boat.
I heard the radio. I was listening to it. And I told the other guy we was talking, I said, that was that boat that just went by us. I said, if that's right, if that's that boat, I know where she should be. So me and Billy, I came my boat up and went on down to where our net was, about where I thought she should have been, and headed offshore. And it got rougher. I was getting where it was rough. It got really rough. And we kept going and going, couldn't see nothing. And we kept going, and we couldn't see land.
Oh, no.
And I said, well, if that was them, though, I can't go home until I go a little bit further. So we went a little bit further, and directly we spotted a little dot. And we went out there to it, and it was that boat and that man and that lady, and she was crying, just as hard as she was crying.
She
just
was
a drifting. They were going offshore really fast.
Yeah.
And we took us, their anchor wouldn't reach bottom. And it took us probably 5 or 10 minutes to get a line to them. It was so rough, I couldn't get in there to them very good. Finally threw the line over and got into them and started pulling her in. And we pulled right on in. We got about half the way. We could see the land and everything coming in. And the Coast Guard started coming out then. And when the Coast Guard come over to us, and I remember they asked me, they said, you go ahead and turn her loose now, and we'll tow them in. I said, I'm not turning this boat loose until I get in there along that shore, because it was too hard to get a hold of her, and it was too rough.
Right.
So they've been along with me until we got in there, and they got her. And and then we went to our net, and we had a few mackerel had been in the net, and the sharks had been in there and tore our net all too big. Conway, we had to cut her out the line. We didn't get no fees.
No.
Yeah, but we did. I think we saved her life, because I don't think the Coast Guard would have found them, because they get night, and she was going.
Yeah.
That wind was taking her right on offshore.
Well, oh my goodness. Well,
But
I
that
mean,
was
what
that.
you did was definitely more important.
Very more important.
But,
Yeah. And I once in a while I would see the guys that we was talking to, and I talked to them, and they would bring that up. I said, you found them though, didn't you? Yeah. I said, well, we let that. They was like that.
Oh my goodness, what a blessing you were to
But
them.
that's one thing when you're in a boat, you always want to look for somebody in trouble. Be sure to go and help them, because most of the time they need the help.
Yeah,
and you might
for
save
sure.
somebody.
Yeah, that's right. Oh my goodness. Wow. So, okay, so that wasn't a very productive mackerel trip, but you saved somebody's life. So that was good.
I really think we did. I can't say for sure, but I believe we did.
I-
And I was always sorry that I didn't get their name.
I started to ask you that.
we
but-
didn't get their name, because once the Coast Guard got them.
Yeah.
Okay. The next thing I'm going to talk about a little bit, just about floundering. I
Okay.
never did a lot of floundering, but my brother-in-law did, and he kept his boat tied up in our harbor.
And that was who?
That was Dickie Dickerson.
Go Dickie. Yeah.
And he asked me to go with him one night. And so I did. I went with him. And where we floundered at was from the breakwater buoy. Most people call that the jetty now, but we always call it the breakwater, and they had a buoy out in. They call it the bell buoy. Anyway, that was where they were floundering at, go in along the beach and go from there to the Cape Point. And you had to have a night where there was no sea, no snow,
Had to be
beautiful
calm.
night, and the water had to be clear. Because you would get in there right to the edge of the beach where enough you could see bottom, wouldn't be about over a foot or two deep, when you would catch them.
Would you shine a light?
And we had light. We had a light down in the water and use gigs. And we go down that side and then come back like that. And we had 500 pound that night.
500 pounds?
500 pound. That was the last night I ever went floundering. You had to be real careful because if you, out of nowhere it would be a ghost swell. You'd be going along just as pretty and all of a swell would come. You wouldn't hear it just roll in there to you and it would pick you up and set you on the beach. You had to be real particular about that.
You were that close to the beach?
Yeah, that's that close to the beach.
Wow.
Yeah.
500 pounds.
We had 500 pound. And I can remember when we had the fish house, I remember people floundered by themselves. And I know 2 or 3 different times they would have, some of the fishermen would have 2,000 pounds one night.
Good gracious.
They said that they see so many flounders, they didn't know which one to gig.
Because you gig them one at a time.
Yeah, one at a time.
That's a lot of gigging.
But 2,000 pounds.
I like to have a baked one right now.
But anyway, and I'll tell you another little thing about floundering along the beach. Years ago, this was a long time ago now. You can't even go for floundering no more, I think. If you do, there's only about one day. But anyway, the surf casters used to be along the beach. That was their favorite place of floundering, in the beach. They go down there and their beach buggies and stuff and flounder. And they did not like you, a commercial fisherman, coming down that shore with that light. And I remember one night that they shot at one of the boys.
Shot?
They didn't hit him. They were shooting over him or something, but they did shoot at him.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
so that was should have been a bad situation.
That
but,
would have been real bad, yeah.
yeah.
Wow. But that was like, get out of here. Okay, wow. What else you got?
Okay, I got plenty, baby.
I love you.
You might remember this. I used to sit in the boat we had, Lady Lena.
Yeah, Lady
We would
Lana,
go and
yeah.
we sit and we catch croakers outside. We'd go along the beach and sit and catch croakers.
And how did you catch them?
You was set and around or whatever, and you just marshal them. There would be a lot of them. It was
Like pull the ends together?
yeah.
Is that what
No,
you
you
do?
didn't even pull the end together. You
What'd
just
you do?
run her out and then you set her, pull her back to
Oh,
you,
and
and
then
they
pull
would
her
go
back.
in and
That's
marshal
right.
them. Yeah, and but it was at that time it was a lot of people doing that, and it was probably sometimes it would be 20 boats out there,
Oh, wow.
and if one boat found them, then everybody headed to them, and everybody got some on most of the time, And that's one of the things I think now that the reason there's not as many fish as people say, because there's nobody going out there. If one boat goes out there, it's a job for him to find any fish. But when you got 20 and 25 boats, somebody will find them.
You help each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
And one of the things, I don't know if people know this or not, but one of the things that a lot of people had the fish finders, and mark them on the bottom. But in the beginning, they didn't have no fish finders. So one of the things they would do, they would watch, and they would, for gannets. Gannets would dive, and when they would dive, then the fishermen would go where they were because they knew that they could see the fish.
Because the gannets were diving for food.
So that was their GPS, the
I love it.
gannets. Yeah. And seagulls too, but the gannets was the main thing.
Yeah, that's neat.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
But okay, but that's when I went. The last time I went fishing like that, I caught 5,000 pounds in that little boat, and we made a mistake. We put oil on in the stern of the boat.
Oh,
I
that
should have
wasn't
put part of it
good.
on the bow of the boat.
Right.
Because when we come in, if we had to pass anybody, we were sunk. Because when we got to the dock, we had to put a skiff and take some of the net and put it in the skiff.
Yeah. Yeah, you needed to spread it out.
Because
better.
we
Yeah.
did have some friends that got lost that way.
Yes.
And
yeah.
I done something stupid, but we lived through it anyway.
You were lucky. You
Yeah.
were lucky.
I did some channel netting.
Okay.
That's shrimping.
Yep.
That's setting a net for shrimp. It's different than trolling. You would anchor the net. You would get in a good place out to the edge of the channel, put from the bank off, and you would anchor the net and hold it there. And on ebb tide, when the tide is going out, is when you caught your shrimp. Because they would be hash out like in Pamlico Sound places, but then they wound up going out in the ocean. And they catch them, and some people caught a lot of shrimp doing that way. Yeah, it's called channel net.
Channel netting. I love me some shrimp.
Yeah, channel net. Okay, I'll tell you a little bit about blue fishing.
Oh, Daddy, you've done a little bit of everything.
But you don't want it?
I do want it.
Okay,
And
let's
I
go
do,
there.
And I love me some bluefish too.
Okay. I'm naming some names in this one here because
Okay.
I was asked to name some of the people's
I
names.
do.
And
I
it
want
was
to
a
know
long
who
time
you were
ago.
with. Yeah.
Well, Mark Lewis and Donnie Lewis were brothers. And they feast. They have each one of them had like a 40-foot boat. And one of them was named the Boys, one of them named, I forgot what it was. But anyway, one day from Cape Point, if you go all the way to Cape Point and you look out, it was a little slough. You could go around the point. But out from that, there was a shoal. The people nowadays call it the Shark Island. Shark
yeah.
Island. But we didn't ever call it Shark Island. We just called it ebb out or whatever. But you couldn't go on it fishing because you were scared to get aground on it. So what Mark did, he went on the eastern side of it, and the tide was running towards the western, and he'd run the whole all of his net out all the way down the length of the shoal, and the tide took it across the shoal because that's where the fish was on the shoal.
So the tide did the work.
Tide did the work. Well,
That
not
was
all the
smart.
work.
Well,
Yeah,
it
and
did, it
his
did
brother was on the other
moving it.
side waiting when he got there, and he had so many fish that Mark filled his 40-foot boat and give his brother Donnie the other half and filled two 40-foot boats with that one net.
No way.
And you can believe this or not, it was less holes in that net when they got through than it was before. You know why?
Why?
The holes were a lot bigger.
You got me. Okay. All right.
Anyway,
That's
I thought that was
funny.
neat because I always remember that because that was working in the fish house and stuff. I never saw that many bluefish ever be caught at one
That's
time.
amazing. But that was genius to do it that way.
Yeah, they knew what they were doing.
Wow.
Yeah, I will tell you a little bit about the time my father ran a boat for Clayton Fulcher, the Aris, 80-foot trawler. And I remember one summer I went with him shrimping in Pamlico Sound. And I did not like it. But one of the things I remember them doing, everything nowadays, is GPS. If they find shrimp somewhere now, they can mark it on their, and keep going in that same area. But then it was funny to watch it. I remember they stuck a post. They found some shrimp and they stuck a post, and then my 70, 80-foot trawler was working around that post.
Oh.
But they were smart enough to mark it where it was.
Yes.
And but it's just don't do that no more.
Because they got
GP
that's neat. So if you saw
GPS.
that post, you knew that they had been found
Yeah.
there. That's cool.
I'll tell you just a little bit, if you want me to, about swell toads.
Please tell me, and I hope you're
Okay.
going to share that story.
Swell toads are really, they call them puffers. We didn't know what a puffer was. I thought somebody smoked a lot. But really, it was blue toad, or they swell up with water or air, And I was running the fish house, and Mr. Alan Guthrie, I know a lot of people knew Alan Guthrie. He went, but they pulled trawls and they catch them to the Cape in their big trawls. And he come up to my house one Saturday, and they was getting ready to go. And he said, "When you got to help me, you got to do something to help me." I said, "What is it, Alan?" He never asked for any help. He said, "You got to go with me tomorrow." I told him, "I can't get nobody to go with me." I said, "I got to be there to run the fish house." He said, "I promise you I'll be the first boat back." Felt like if that was going to help a lot.
Right. that was-
Anyway, I went with him and we loaded the boat, and we were the first boat back. And then I had to go there and we unloaded that whole boat. We had a load of toads, and when we got in, we only had a half a load.
Because the air
Because
gone.
iron the water. But anyway, we did that, and I did that for a week. I thought I was going to die because after we got in, I had to do all the unloading all the other boats to get on the Atlantic.
Oh my goodness.
And then I told him that next week, I said, "Alan, you're going to get somebody else, buddy." And he found another boy to go
Yeah,
with
you
him.
can't keep doing that.
Yeah. But when I was in the ninth grade, there was a guy that worked with my father, was a colored guy called Mississippi.
Mississippi.
Everybody loved Mississippi. And he helped me. We skinned the toads. You skin them out in the hunk of meat that you save, and you throw the rest of it away. But they skin out about a fourth of the weight.
Oh wow.
And my father would always save as many toads as I wanted, so I could do it when I got home from school. And I actually I went to school to Beaufort that year,
Oh wow.
ninth grade, and I had to thumb back and forth.
Thumb back and forth to Beaufort.
Yeah,
School.
imagine doing that now.
Yeah,
But
that-
anyway,
uh-huh.
Mississippi would have everything ready for me, have his knife sharp, my forks would be ready. And we skinned that week every evening. I done that same thing until night, 12 o'clock at night sometimes.
Jeez.
And we skinned out that week, we skinned 16,000 pounds.
16,000.
Pound of toads, that's before they were skinned.
Uh-huh.
They skinned out a 4,000 pound of meat.
Wow.
We got paid 4 cents a pound,
Wow.
which was $160. I got $80. Mississippi got $80, and I bought a bedroom suit with mine.
Oh my
And
goodness.
I don't care if I ever see another tote.
That cured you of that.
Yeah, but that was a lot.
Oh,
That
my
was a lot
goodness.
that was a lot of totes. Next thing I'm gonna talk about is crab pot.
Please do, because I started saying get the crab pot, because that was what you were doing a whole lot of the evenings when you'd leave
Yeah.
the house and go get in your boat. So I love crabs.
I did too, except one I didn't. But
Yeah,
anyway,
you got to tell that story too.
I set crab pots. I had 100 crab pots, and when I get home from work, I would go and I had set my pots the night before, or the day before, and I'd go out there and I'd fish all that different pots. And
By yourself.
a lot of by myself, and a lot of times it would be bad weather, or it would be night, and I had to find someone with a light. But I would fish them crab pots, and I learned something. I figured out, I believe I could, I might be wrong, but I believe I could catch as many crabs with my 100 pots as somebody else could with 150 or 200 pots. Because what they would do that I saw, they would set their pots. It wasn't some of the bigger crowd that catch 400, but they would set, say, 150 pots, say. And they would leave them there, they would never do nothing to them. They'd go back and fish them and fish them. But when I fish the pots, after the first 10 or 15 pots, they had no crabs in, and they start getting crabs in them, I'd always move them pots to the other end. I was always moving that 10 or 15 pots every time I went crabbing.
Right.
And I stayed in the crab better that way because the crabs are moving, you know.
Yeah, that's smart, Daddy.
And you usually they start setting their pots in the spring when it starts getting warm because in the wintertime they bed. And sometimes, okay, when it warms up a little bit, the trawlers can take and catch some. Yeah, but I set crab pots.
So when you say set crab pots and fishing them, you have to pull the crab pot out of the water, go through all the steps, because it's not just one little dump.
You had to pick it up. You had them in a string where you could go from one to the next one. You couldn't put them out everywhere because when the shrimping season started, they didn't like that because the shrimper couldn't drag because they'd be in the way. But in a straight line, they could work with them. Yeah, and you had to pull it up, dump it, and then put new bait in it, and then reset it. And it was a whole lot easier to fish a crab pot that had 2 or 3 dozen in it than it was to fish one with 3 crabs in it.
Because you couldn't get them out?
Because when there was a lot in it, they would be hung together and they'd roll right out. If you didn't catch one but 3 or 4, you try to get them 3 or 4 so you pay for your gas.
All right, because time is going way too fast. Before we leave, you've got to tell them about the time you got in a scrape with a crab.
Okay, I did get in a scrape with a crab. But I know somebody else got in a scrape with a crab, so I'm going to tell both stories.
Okay, tell both stories.
Okay. I'll tell my story first, but you want me to?
I do want you
It was a crab. I was fishing. One of them old big blue crabs got a hold of me, my finger, and hold my knuckle. I mean, if it had been the other part of the finger, I could let him have it, but it was my knuckle, and I thought he was going to kill me. I done everything I could do. I took a screwdriver. I cussed him. I prayed for him. I held him down in the water, and I could not get him off of me.
You held him overboard.
And finally, I held him over. Finally, I put him down. I said, "Me or you one has got to go." I put him down, and I stomped the crap out of him. And when I did, I didn't realize what he done. He really locked on me. That claw stayed right on my finger. He fell off. So I took a screwdriver and finally got it off from me. And I thought I was going to pass out. And I was in a speedboat, and I took my boat and run her in against the wind real hard as I could run her. That cool air kind of got me going back there.
My goodness.
But that crab put a hurting on me.
Oh, my goodness.
But it's another guy I'll tell you about crabbing too, Johnny Boo.
Uh-huh.
Johnny Boo, he always shrimp and stuff, but he had a little boat, and he always went by himself and everything. And crabs struck into the banks over the way shore. There was a lot of crabs, and they could catch them in a trough. So he was over there by himself, and he made a tow, and he filled his net slam full. He couldn't get her rolled in. So he took her in there and went ashore with him, and he got overboard, and he took a hold of her and was going to roll her in. And Dio crab through that net got a hold of each hand.
Oh, me.
He said he was there with his net and with both hands. He got out of it. He was tough. He was a tough man. He got out of it. And when he came to the fish house, he was telling us about it. He said, "I'll never catch another damn crab."
Oh, me.
But he was tough, too. I seen him take his arm like a 6-cylinder engine, spark plugs. I seen him take his arm and lay down on it like that and make her stop. And one of them knocked the crap out of you. I seen him do that. But anyway, that was Johnny Boo. But he said, I don't think he went crapping no more.
That'd finish me.
Yeah.
All right. You know where we got to end.
Oh, let me see where we got in.
We've got to end with the best mate you ever had.
Oh, I got something before that, though.
Oh,
Oh,
well,
yeah.
do it.
You wanted me to tell them about the Vienna sausage.
Oh, yeah. Tell that.
See, but
Y'all,
I
I'm
went.
sorry. This is going to go a little bit long, but this is
Yeah,
good.
I can't help
this
it.
is good
I got to
stuff.
talk faster. I got to talk real
No,
fast.
don't talk faster because I can't understand you.
But anyway, I'll leave some of that. But anyway, I always grab something when I went shrimping.
You
So I
grab some food.
because I hadn't had
Yeah.
nothing to eat. So I grabbed my can of Vienna sausage. I went, set my net out, put it around, started dragging just before dark. Went and sat down in the back of the boat, opened up my Vienna sausage oven, sat back down and had some crackers.
Had it made. You were
Had it
tickled
made.
to
Oh,
death.
I said, I'm ready to go now. Everything perfect. And when I dumped the juice out of the end, the Vienna sausage fell out the can and went overboard. I didn't know whether to go after Vienna sausage or just keep going and be mad all night. So I was mad all night.
I
that's
hope
why.
so. Yeah.
But that was a Vienna sausage. That was a bad night.
That was bad. You watched them float away. No, me.
Okay.
That's
Okay. Here,
okay.
this is what it is. It was the time that I was shrimping, and I was in the mouth of Brickyard Creek. Everybody calls it Whiter's Creek now, but we called it Brickyard Creek for some reason. Up in the head of it, they had something to do with brick back there in the day. I don't know if they made them or what they did, but they had brick up in it. And I was towing like from the Island Bridge to the Brickyard. And it was late in the fall. Everybody had quit long hauling. And I caught, down by the Brickyard, down that shore there, I caught about 200 pounds, the biggest spot you ever seen, in that little 20-foot net I had.
Oh, wow.
And I said, this is a lot of fish here. So I didn't know of anybody, but when I come home, I checked, and little Dan Yeomans, he had his net still on his long haul skids. He hadn't took them off. I told him about it. They went over there and hauled it, and they hauled fish and spots out of it for 2 days and nights.
Oh,
They
wow.
done what they stuck them up over there, and that was after everybody had quit. They just showed up.
Oh, my goodness.
So that was pretty neat.
That was neat, and that was a huge tip you had give them.
Yeah, and the other thing is, I had a daughter, she's got one that aggravates a little bit, but she's Stacy. Anyway, I would go shrimping, when shrimping season, I would go shrimping, and she would go with me. I had a 20-foot boat, and it had a cabin, and I had a bed made up in the front for her.
That was the Sisters 3.
The Sisters 3, they have the name of her. And she would go with me, she was my mate. And
I was how old, Daddy? I was little.
you was old enough that I would sing songs to you, wasn't right.
Right. But I realized like about 3 or 4. I mean, I was
not
little.
very much.
Yeah.
And I would tow him when I stopped to take the net up. She would get in the back of the boat with me, help me, and get the net going.
I would help you.
And till I got the net dumped and got her back overboard, and she'd go back up there and play under the cabin. And she was talking to CB radio.
I did.
She told her name was.
My handle was Stacy Lucy Lockett Bonedocker Davis.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
And she talked with Bill Guthrie a lot. She talked to anybody on the radio, on the
Anybody that called
CB
me.
radio that night.
You were light pole.
Yeah, I was like, but anyway, she was my mate, and
I'd call Mama a lot on the CB when you
Yeah.
weren't looking.
yeah,
I'd say, "Come here, Mama."
yeah,
And she'd talk
yeah,
to me.
and she was pretty good. I got her one time though. I was going home in the boat, a small boat, and we're getting ready. I told her to let her steer, and she was steering the boat. We were going in. I don't know. We'd probably been somewhere clamming or something. I don't know for sure.
Yeah, something.
But anyway, I was going into the mouth of the harbor, and she hollered at me. She said, "Daddy, you take the boat. You take the boat." I said,
Because
"You
we
got
had
her."
to do that S turn.
Had to do it.
and-
Had to go through the S turn down the straits, and then we got up to the harbor. And she said, "Daddy, take it, take it." I said, "No, you can do it." And she said she was scared.
That's not all you did. You're leaving out some. All right, y'all. Okay, this is it. But got to get the facts straight. You sat down at the back of the boat,
Well, yeah.
propped your foot up, and said, "Stace, what if I had fell and broke my leg? What would you do?" And you pretended that you had a broke leg, and you insisted you couldn't walk on it. And so I had to steer home.
And you believed it.
No, I didn't believe it. That's what made me so mad. And I was scared to death. And then you wouldn't even dock. I had to pull it up to the dock.
But
and
you done
everything.
good. But you learned something from it, darling.
Yeah.
See?
Not to believe a word you say.
Not. Anyway, that's about all I got, and I don't think anybody wants to hear anymore.
No, I have enjoyed this so much. I will say that I remember one night Granddaddy Henry went with us shrimping.
Uh-huh.
And he was the captain. And I remember sitting in there playing, and he would laugh at me. And I would have my dog babies and stuff. And so how much fun that was.
Yeah.
And I remember also you sitting me on top of the cabin sometimes. And I would sit there and watch you all work. That's how I helped you, was staying out your way, by the way. But you would sing songs to me.
They were good songs. So you still remember them,
I
I bet.
remember a lot of the songs because the words were so wrong. And I remember Mama telling me to never sing them in public because sometimes it was real wrong. But I still sang them, and I sang one of my kids.
Still sing.
Well, Daddy, I love you. Thank you. I know that everybody has enjoyed this and listening to it, but I surely have.
Well, that's the way it is. I'm sticking to it.
Yeah. You've done a little bit of everything.
I tried.
Yeah.
I tried a lot of different things.
Well, your family appreciates all the work you did because you left one job, went to another, and we appreciate you a lot.
Well, I enjoy this so much. You know how much I've enjoyed this.
Yeah.
And I appreciate any time you want me to do something like this, feel free to ask me. I'm ready.
There's no sarcasm at all in that
None
statement.
whatsoever.
None
This is my thing right here.
Yeah, you love it. Well, thank you, and until next time.
It won't be long.
It won't be long. All right. Thank you, Daddy.
Okay. You're welcome.
Now, how fun was that? Some of those stories I have heard all of my life, but some of them were first-timers for me. You just never know what you're going to get when you sit down to talk with Wayne Davis. I love him some kind of good. Please join us next week when we begin our talks on decoy carving. We're going to begin with Mr. Jason Michaels. Don't miss it. Until then, stay safe and be kind.